Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Kripa K from Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering. Currently, I'm in my 7th semester pursuing computer science and engineering. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the subject energy and environment with the subject code 18ME751. This video contains the following contents. So mainly I'm going to be talking about key energy trends in India. Under that, I'll be covering the topics demand, electricity, access to modern energy, energy production and trade. So moving to the first subtopic, that is demand. So India has been responsible for almost 10% of the increase in global energy demand since 2000. Its energy demand in this period has almost doubled, pushing the country's share in global demand up to 5.7% in 2013 from 4.4% at the beginning of the century. While impressive, this proportion is still well below India's near 18% current share of global population, a strong indicator of the potential for further growth. Expressed on a per capita basis, energy demand in India has grown by a more modest 46% since 2000 and remains only around one-third of world average, slightly lower than the average for the African continent. One reason is that a significant part of the population remains without modern and reliable energy. Despite a rapid extension of the reach of the power system in recent years, around 240 million people in India lack access to electricity. So moving to this slide, this is a pictorial representation of per capita energy consumption in India and selected regions from 2002 to 2013. The widespread differences between regions and states within India necessitate looking beyond national figures to fully understand the country's energy dynamics. This is true of all countries, but it is particularly important in India both because of its size and heterogeneity in terms of demographics, income levels, and resource endowments, and also because of the federal structure that leaves many important responsibilities for energy with individual states. Energy demands has almost doubled since 2000, but this is slower than the rate of economic growth. Over the same period, this is due to in part to shift away from bioenergy consumption in the residential sector. The rising importance of the services sector in the Indian economy and increased policy efforts directed at end-use energy efficiently. This is the pictorial representation of the energy consumption and energy demand. So almost three-quarters of Indian energy demand is met by fossil fuels, a share that has increased since 2000 because of a rapid rise in coal consumption and a decreasing role for bioenergy as households move away from the traditional use of solid biomass for cooking. Coal now accounts for 44% of the primary energy mix, compared with under a third globally, mainly because of the expansion of the global coal-fired power generation fleet. Although increased use of cooking coal is India's steel industry has also played a part, the availability and affordability of coal relative to other fossil fuels has contributed to its rise, especially in the power sector. Demand for bioenergy has grown in absolute terms, but its share in the primary energy mix has declined by almost 10 percentage points since 2000 as households moved to the other fuels for cooking. Then coming to the oil consumption in 2014 stood at 3.8 million barrels per day, 40% of which is used in the transportation sector. Demand for diesel has been particularly strong. Now, according for some 70% of road transport fuel use, this is due to the high share of road free traffic, which tends to be diesel powered in the total transport use, and also to government subsidies that kept the price of diesel relatively low. Deregulated in 2010, LPG use has increased rapidly since 2000, reaching over 0.5 MB per D in 2013. LPG is second only to diesel among the oil products, pushing gasoline down into an usually low third place. The rise in LPG consumption also reflects growing urbanization as well as continued subsidies. Natural gas makes up a relatively small share of the energy mix. It is used mainly in the power generation and as a feedstock and fuel for the production of fertilizers, although it also has a small but growing role as a transportation fuel, hydropower, nuclear, and modern renewable geothermal energies. So, moving to another subtopic, that is electricity. The provision of electricity is critical to India's energy and economic outlook and is a major area of uncertainty for the future. The country's electricity demand in 2013 was 897 terawatt hours, up from 376 terawatt hour in 2000, having risen over this period at an average annual rate of 6.9%. Electricity constitutes some 15% of final energy consumption, an increase of around 4 percentage point since 2000. As with all other demand sectors, further rapid growth is to be expected. Around 1/6 of the world's population in India consumes about 1/20th of global power output. With continued economic expansion, expanding access to electricity, urbanization, and ever larger stock of electrical appliances, and a rising share of electricity in final pressures on the power system will persist and increase. Inadequate investment, high transmission and distribution losses, and regular power outages. This is a key structural weakness for the energy sector as a whole. On the supply side, India has some 290 gigawatts of power generation capacity, of which coal makes up by far the largest share, followed by hydropower and natural gas. That is 8% of it. The mix has become gradually more diverse since 2000. Almost 40% of the change in installed capacity was non-coal. This is reflected also in figures for generation, which show how renewable are playing an increasingly important role. But despite the increase in generation, India faces a structural shortage of power for residential consumers. This constraint is most evident during periods of peak demand, typically in the early evenings as demand for lighting, cooling, and other appliances surges. Often require electricity and are more in demand for the electricity. So moving to the next subtopic, that is access to modern energy. India has made great strides in improving access to modern energy in recent years. Since 2000, India has more than halved the number of people without access to electricity and doubled rural. Electrification rates, nonetheless, around 240 million people or 20% of the population remain without access to electricity. The population without access is concentrated in a relatively small number of states. Almost two-thirds are in the two populous northern and northeastern states. Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, in large swatches of India, including the majority of southern states, electrification rates are already well above 90%. So economic challenge in urban areas, electrification rates are much higher, but the quality of service remains very uneven, especially in India's large pre-urban slum areas. There are home to around 8.8 million households. India's rural electrification program, the Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyutikaran Yojana, was launched in 2005 and aimed to provide electricity to villages of 100 inhabitants or more and free electricity to people below the poverty line. The effective implementation of RGGVY has faced several challenges, and there are strong variations in outcome between states as well as questions over the definition of access. In July 2015, RGGVY was subsumed within a new scheme, the Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gram Jyoti Yojana. The main components of this scheme are the separation of distribution networks between agricultural and non-agricultural consumers to reduce load shedding, strengthening load transmission and distribution infrastructure, and metering. Among the issues that have held up the progress with electrification is the need to find a local electrification process. Energy production and trade. Fossil fuels supply around three-quarters of India's primary energy demand, and in the absence of a very strong policy push in favor of alternative fuels, this share will tend to increase over time as households move away from a traditional use of biomass. This high and potentially growing reliance on fossil fuels come with two major drawbacks. India's domestic production of fossil fuels, considered as per capita basis, is by far the lowest among the major emerging economies, meaning that India has a structural dependence on imported supply. In addition, conversion of coal and oil products contributes to pressuring air quality in many areas as well as to global greenhouse gas emissions. So this is the fossil fuel production and demand per capita by selected countries in 2013. Middle East, South Africa, China, India, Russia, as shown in the given figure. I hope this video would be really informative to learn about the key energy trends of India. Thank you. Have a nice day.